All right, good morning. This is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Penn. I just thought I'd get a quick update on what's going on with Hurricane Earl. And here's a close-up view of Hurricane Earl. This is the 1 kilometer visible satellite loop. Some interesting things happened overnight. That well-defined pin-size eye wall has completely disappeared, as it looks like we're going through an eye wall replacement cycle, which essentially means one eye wall is contracting and a new one is forming. So we're losing the visibility, but you can still see there's a circulation center right in here, and it looks like the new eye wall is beginning to form roughly right in here. So we'll have to see how this unfolds during the day. This is likely going to include some weakening here in the short term with some strengthening down the road. But there's also something else you can see clearly on this. Dry air on the northwest side, or the western semicircle, is starting to have a big impact on the overall cloud view of Earl. Look at all this cloud cover that's been scoured out here by dry air, and this band right here is almost falling apart. There's a lot of dry air on the northwest side of the storm, which, if you look carefully, this red area is starting to have an impact on the northwest quadrant of the outflow. We're beginning to eat away at some of the mid and upper levels of moisture, which is getting pulled in at the surface. It's getting ejected in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere by the storms near the center, and usually spreads out to the north and west. But we're beginning to see this dry air win out. Now, this is a good thing because this will help weaken the storm possibly, but because the core of the storm is so well organized, it's not likely that this dry air is going to make it into the central part of the storm, but this would definitely help deter it from strengthening much more than it is right now. You can also see up here in the northwest side of the screen, or the upper left-hand corner, big trough digging in across the middle of the country. That's going to be the trough that's going to help kick it off to the north and east. But right now, we're being driven by the subtropical ridge, which is out here in the middle of the Atlantic, and we've got a small ridge over the southeastern United States with a little cutoff low, it looks like here. It looks almost like a little tut low, but it's inland over the southeast. So we'll keep an eye on these trends. I think that could bode well for weakening the storm and steering it away. Here's the latest track from stormpulse.com. You can see on Friday morning it's going to be very close to the North Carolina coastline. Now, no matter where this track is, if it's anywhere in the cone of uncertainty, we're going to see coastal flooding up and down the coastline, huge swells, and likely above average tides for several days. I think we'll probably see an evacuation of many areas of the Outer Banks just because they're so susceptible to flooding there. And even on the sound side and on the ocean side, we're going to have flooding. We're going to have ocean side flooding as the storm approaches, and then as it moves off to the east, we're going to have sound side flooding. National Hurricane Center track here. I plotted the track. If you look at the center circulation, I'm going to put the cursor right on there. That looks to be about 21 north and about 67.5 west. But if you notice, if the trend continues, it's going to be just slightly east of the next forecast point, which is also a good sign, which means it's maybe going to wobble to the east a little bit, and maybe it is going to stay just to the east of the current forecast track. A couple things I'd like to note. This is the forecast track wind fields from hurricanealley.net. They do their own forecast. Here's what theirs looks like. Let me rotate back and forth. Hurricane Center, Hurricane Alley. Notice they're essentially the same until it gets to the North Carolina Outer Banks, and they move it inland over southern New Jersey and Delaware, eastern Delmarva Peninsula, which would be devastating for these areas up in here. We'll have to see how that unfolds, but it's certainly plausible. But when you look at the cone of uncertainty, this is based on the forecast track from hurricanealley.net. See how wide it is? That tells you there's a lot of uncertainty, especially once you get beyond about 48 to 72 hours. So unfortunately, that's the time frame that we really need to know what's going on. So we'll keep an eye on it, but I think it bodes well that we're seeing this dry air maybe have a small impact on it. And really, I don't see the storm getting much stronger than it was last night, because you need eye wall replacement cycles are going to kind of dictate the kind of what's going on with the inner core of the storm. You can almost see here on the water vapor the new eye walls forming right there. And 135, 140 miles an hour as it goes into dry air, a little bit of shear, and just a tad slightly cooler water doesn't let me believe that it's going to become a Category 5 unless it passes right over the Gulf Stream with ideal upper level conditions. It may briefly burst up to Category 5, but I don't think that's likely right now. We'll keep an eye on it, and I'll have an update coming up today at 4, 5, and 6 on News Channel 36. See you then.